Hello, everyone, and welcome to Writers Drinking Coffee. This is a podcast based on writers sitting around, drinking coffee or red coffee, and talking about writing, publishing, and the whole creative process. We don't censor ourselves, but we don't swear a lot, so please consider us PG-13. Your host today is me, John Schmidt, and I am joined by two fabulous writers, Violet Woods and Liz Hamill, and we're going to talk about NaNoWriMo. National... What does NaNoWriMo stand for?
National Novel Writing Month.
National Novel Writing Month. So a brief description for those of you who don't know, there is a wonderful organization called NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, which you can join. And they have various mechanisms, which I'm not completely clear on because I haven't done it in a couple of years, that help you write a novel. And they define a novel as a 50,000 word piece of work. And I have attempted it twice, but never completely finished one. It's taught me a lot. We'll go into that in a minute. Liz, what's your experience with NaNoWriMo?
I have attempted NaNoWriMo, I believe, about 8 times. I have successfully completed 4 50,000-word novels in the 30-day month of November that the event goes forward. I have not yet published any of them.
Is publishing a requirement?
No, not at all. In fact, the whole point of NaNoWriMo is just to write that first draft. You are not required to show it to anybody ever if you don't want to. And in fact, the first one I finished is a completely unpublishable mess.
Do you get anything at all for completing? I mean, is there like a trophy or anything?
A sense of great accomplishment and some cool web graphics that you can put on your social media. Also, it turns out that if you are in writing professionally, even technical writing, it's something you get to put on your LinkedIn profile that impresses hiring managers.
I think we'll come back to that in a minute. That's news to me and very good to know. Violet, what's your experience?
Yes. Well, I got started in NaNoWriMo through a very good friend who was doing it purely for personal enrichment, personal satisfaction reasons. She had no interest in publishing. I, however, have always had interest in publishing, especially in the field of romance. And I heard about it from her, and I thought, well, that sounds kind of keen. I've never finished a book in my life, and maybe it's about time I tried. And I started in, I think, 2009 or maybe 2010 was my first year. And I've done it, not always successfully, but I've done it every year since.
So you're a serial NaNoWriMoist.
I am definitely a serial So some of us call ourselves Rymos, but I've never really liked that. I don't really like the abbreviation. So, writers, I think, those.
The writers is a good one. Finishers for you two. One of the things I found very useful about NaNoWriMo, the Spanish Inquisition time. The 3 things I found most useful. One of the first ones was, though, they give you a base set of tools to track your word count and inspire you. They also have blogs, second tool, so that you can look at it. And the base set of tools allows you to do a vital bit of definition first, from my point of view, which is to say what sort of thing you're trying to write, which helps when you get to the marketing end. And then one of the big things for me was that, and I don't think this will be a big thing real person, but I'm sure there will be a virtual version of it, or I don't know, was write-ins. And I could go to pretty much any coffee shop where I live in the Bay Area and encounter a NaNoWriMo write-in taking over some part of it, which meant that even though you're doing it yourself, there's support around you. And in some cases, there was the ability, certain groups were like, yeah, go ahead and talk. Other groups were like, no, please don't. Come to write, drink coffee, write, but don't talk. But I remember Red Rock Cafe in Mountain View having a corner full of plot ninjas, people who would give you plot points to move your plot along. And they even gave out little plastic ninja figures.
I loved the Red Rock write-ins. Those were so much fun. I miss
were
those.
the best.
Okay. I also would note that some of these write-ins took off and continued. I know of at least two that before the current crisis continued weekly or bi-weekly all the way up to most of the coffee shops closing down, which is a very powerful thing. Liz, how did you get into NaNoWriMo?
Well, my original technical writing mentor, a woman named Shelley King, started doing it and talked me into trying it with her one year. And this was probably, 2006, 2007, quite a while ago. And she was actually one of the people who led write-ins and was a community moderator. So I went to the initial getting started party. I went to the write-ins, including at the Red Rock in Mountain View. And then I went to the Thank God It's Over party. Although I was never quite hardcore enough to do the write-in at Denny's that before COVID started at 12:01 on November 1st.
Yes, the first minute write-in. I always wanted to go to that one and I never managed.
It always sounded like it was probably great fun, but yeah.
It sounded really hardcore to me, but generally on November 1st, right at that hour, generally I'm taking off makeup from my evening's activities previous. So, I found out about it on the internet. I did go to Red Rock. I never finished a novel. I always the two attempts I stalled out around 30K. So let me ask you, obviously there's things on the website that help, and you got a mentor, Shelley. That's really cool. By the way, does she have any published books? If she was in NaNoWriMo before you, she must have written a lot.
She has written a lot. And in fact, she has one published novel. It's called The Moment of Everything. And it is published by a major publishing house, I think Hachette. And it started out as a NaNoWriMo novel.
So definitely.
And it's a good little book. Yeah, so she has had the success that we all dream of when we start NaNoWriMo.
It's wonderful.
That's fantastic.
It's a good book. It's a fun little book. I highly recommend it.
We'll include links to it in our notes, but just looking it up right now, it is available on Amazon, and it's got a kitten on the cover, and books. So it's a win right there anyway.
Well, do you guys remember the used bookstore on Castro Street in Mountain View?
Oh, yes.
Ananda Book Buyers.
Yes, it's set there.
It's set in Ananda Book Buyers?
In a fictionalized version of it, yes.
Oh, I have to read this. I lived in that store.
It also, and it includes the SCA.
Oh, even better. That's fabulous.
Was Shelley involved in the SCA?
This.
Shelley was never involved in the SCA, although she did go to several events. I was one of several friends of hers who were members, and we took her to several events. And while it wasn't quite exactly her cuppa, she really liked a lot of aspects of it.
Okay, now I really have to read this book. Well, frankly, I'd get it just for the cover. No, and it's in a bookstore. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So obviously there's success there. Now, so if you're going to write a novel and it's 50,000, what kind of novel can you write with NaNoWriMo? What have you guys written? I've always done attempted science fiction stories. And if I do it this year, and I haven't committed because life is crazy right now, although I'm going to give you guys a chance to talk me into it, I would do a young adult novel I've been working on just to finish it. What have you written, Liz?
First of all, John, you want to do it. It's fun. We'll ping you online and talk about word counts and stuff. For me, I've actually, my very first nano novel was a romance. After that, I got into urban fantasy. This year, I'm actually departing from my urban fantasy world, and I'm going to do a straight up murder mystery, which I've never tried before.
Ooh.
I just read a murder mystery in a fantasy world, so you don't have to depart your world, but I understand.
I wanted to try something different, and actually, I have been reading Agatha Christie's in preparation.
Oh,
Good.
I just read Victoria Goddard's Love in the Mist in her Green Wing and Dark series, which is very much an Agatha Christie book derived. It is a snowed-in house murder mystery with
nice.
all of the proper tropes. And that, did you guys ever get help in the structure of your novels in NaNoWriMo, or were you just kind of set free to go and do them?
You can go either way. This year, I'm actually using one of their little structure tool. I used a structure tool to sort of build out my plot.
Okay.
What about you, Violet? Have you ever used their stuff?
Not so much. I'm definitely a pantser. I do not plot. I've tried it a few times, and every single time I've done an outline, used all the stuff, tried to figure out exactly what I'm doing, got myself a book cover and did all the things you're supposed to do. And I sat down on November 1st and started writing a totally different story. It just, my fingers didn't want to do it, and my head was in a different place, and suddenly I had 3 days worth or 5,000 words of a totally different story, and I just went with it. So to each their own.
I am not a total plotter. I use the little 9-point thing because, I've done that too. I've tried to do the outline. And for me, I actually was with it for like the first third of the book, at which point the characters decided they wanted to do something else. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the outline was pretty much useless because I had wandered off and was writing something entirely other than what I thought I was going to write.
Oh my God. Have you ever done the thing where you started a project and like 3 or 4 days in, you were like, nope, I hate this, and started a different one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Totally.
I've actually, one of the times I didn't finish, it was, I tried to write a novel out of something that really wants to be a screenplay, and I just gave up. Because it was totally the wrong medium, and nothing was going right.
Yeah.
Can you write a screenplay for NaNoWriMo?
Actually, yes, you can write anything. They even have sections on the website and in the tools you can use for rule breakers.
Rule breakers.
Yes, who are writing plays or screenplays or nonfiction books, or really the only thing you have to do to succeed, as it were, in NaNoWriMo is to write 50,000 words. That is the barometer of success. The only thing you have, and that's all they look at to
give you your little badges.
Yeah, to get your badges and to be considered a success, all you have to do is submit your manuscript to a word counter.
And even if you're doing a different type of project, there are people that you'll meet in the forums, if you go on the forums, who've worked out the equivalent of 1 page of screenplay equals X amount of words, and to make it work so that you can get the credit and get the certificate and have your name turn purple and all the other, fun little things.
And put it on your LinkedIn profile.
Profile. That's a surprisingly strong statement. But the next question for me then is, okay, so you've written 50,000 words and you're about to enter EDMO, National December Editing Month, which probably doesn't work out. The one thing it really taught me is that the important thing about writing is sitting down and writing. And you can't wait for your muse. You can't say you'll get to it later. If you're going to hit a goal, you've got to do the words. And I originally, at the beginning of this, I said it was 1.3 kilowords per day. And you corrected me, of course, because you guys are winners, and said, no, it's 1.6 kilowords per day, which is exactly right. But what else did it teach you? Kat, any particular lessons or just,
That I could finish a novel instead of just starting one and then, getting bored and letting it fester in my Word documents for 4 years, that I could actually finish a book. It also taught me that apparently I am meant to be a romance writer, because the first year I wanted to write a romance, I wrote a romance. The second year I wanted to write a murder mystery, and I wrote a romance. The third year I was going to do a supernatural thing about all these vampires and stuff, and it's a romance somehow.
Well, Violet, having read your romances, you're a really good romance writer. So
thank you.
There's nothing wrong with that. I really liked your cowboy cook one. The kitchen scenes made me salivate way too much.
I love writing those. They're so comfortable and cozy and familiar, and I can't resist them.
That sounds great. I am looking you up, and I like reading romance, so I'm going to start buying your books.
What was the name of that book again? I'm sorry. It just slipped my head.
There were actually two of them in the Cowboys and Cooking. There was the first one, which was The Way to Their Hearts. And then also Hearts on Fire is sort of a cowboy cooking one, too, although it's set more in the world of the competitive barbecue circuit.
Oh, how fun.
I think I read the second one. No, is the competitive barbecue circuit in both of them?
No, just the
Then okay,
just
good. Then excellent. I have another book to look forward to. Thank you.
Oh, cool.
Liz, how has NaNoWriMo changed your writing?
NaNoWriMo is what really taught me about, and forgive me, I am going to swear a little here, the technical writing term being the shitty first draft. Mm-hmm. It taught me that it's okay that the writing not fall out of your head perfect the very first try. And I found that I've carried that with me since I learned it. It impacts how I do nonfiction, like freelance writing. It actually carries through to how I do technical writing even. I allow myself the luxury of not getting it perfect. You can always rewrite. We live in an amazing age, the age of instant cutting, pasting, editing, deleting, moving. It's not like when you had to hand write out a manuscript in calligraphy to get published. So it can be bad. It can be wrong. I have had lots of moments in NaNoWriMo where I've been typing away going, this is awful.
And it didn't slow you down. You kept typing.
I kept typing, and NaNoWriMo is great for that because with the time pressure, and this was the whole point behind the original guy who started this, was he had written the first chapter of his novel like 25 times, and his internal editor kept telling him, it's wrong, it's bad, you have to go back and rewrite. When you're writing 50,000 words in 30 days, you don't have time to go back and rewrite. There is one direction, and that is forward.
Yep.
And I love it.
You don't have time to go back and rewrite. Time. You must go forward.
And I found that at least half the time when I have gone back, those things that when I was typing away thinking this is horrible, I've gone back and it hasn't, about half the time, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have not experienced that in such a positive way myself, but then again,
allow yourself to allow it to be bad. Let it be bad. It's like any other art form. It has to be bad before it can be any good.
Oh, yeah. I have met people at write-ins and on the forums who revel in the badness. They're like, I'm going to write just the worst thing I can possibly write. And half the time it's kind of entertaining, actually, when you get to read snippets of it, if you're lucky enough to get to.
I remember one author who was being incredibly mercenary, but also a lot of fun, a younger author who wrote in a character singing the ABC song because each letter becomes a word. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. That's 18 right there, right? And it on one thing it seemed to hack, but when you went back and read the whole passage, it basically was a long scene setting and reset you, and the action was a lot more vivid because you have someone in the background going A, B, C, D. Anyway,
it's amazing what some of the weird stuff you end up doing just to up your word count, how that can end up working later on.
Oh, yeah. And I've done some pretty desperate stuff. I once went back halfway through and did search and replace to change my villain's name from Joan to Joe Ann, 2 separate words, just to bump my word count.
I am infamous in my own mind for making sure that every single line of dialogue has he said or she said or she exclaimed. That's how I've had my word count, and that is a totally valid NaNoWriMo technique, by the way.
Oh yeah.
My technique was the first thing I did in any scene was describe the scene and the characters in it, which led to a very much, I gotta say it becomes very Tolkienian because you're traveling across the countryside, seeing everything, and it forced me to remember. My first attempt took place in and around Crater Lake, but a lot of it was traveling from Silicon Valley to Crater Lake. So, I just basically had a travelogue.
Excellent.
Nice.
But yeah, I hadn't really. Yeah, no, I did like how that worked out.
Yeah, it's funny how those tricks will end up being interesting later on. Notes also count. I don't know, Kat and John, if you've ever done this. Where I get absolutely stuck and I don't know what I'm going to do, I'll write a little bracketed note to myself saying somehow I have to transition from this point to point B. Figure it out later.
Oh yeah. Or insert explanation here.
Yes.
Yeah. I do that so much, and I try to make sure and highlight them so that when I'm stuck at some other point, I can go back and clean up all my highlights.
I use braces because I can search on braces because I never use curly brackets braces in any writing form.
I use straight brackets because I don't use them, and I can search on it. Same reason I can search on it later.
Right, because I do use parenthetical comments. One of the things as a trick I should do is just go back and look at every ellipsis and say, okay, write that out. Because that's 1,000 words.
That's probably a good trick.
Well, that also will help me get rid of ellipses because my writing tends to get untrimmed if I'm not cautious. It's akin to the fact that my vocabulary increases when I'm drunk because I stop editing down to smaller words. Splendiferous elocution explodes from me.
Magnificent.
But, well, I don't know.
Superlative.
So
my thing is.
Go ahead.
My thing is, as far as grammatical quirks, is semicolons, which is a big problem because my publisher doesn't allow them.
They don't allow them?
Nope, no semicolons. Yeah.
We're not.
They go through.
Do they actually take them out?
Oh yeah, they go through and take them out and replace them all with commas, and then I have to go back through it in the proofs and make everything make grammatical sense again.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Right. That's a really good reminder not to use semicolons.
Well, not all publishers are alike. This particular publishing house doesn't allow them, but it's the only one I've worked with, and probably all the others do. So, who knows?
And Liz gave this advice the last time we talked to her. Write to what the publisher wants. If they say submit it this way, submit it this way. Don't handicap yourself. It's not that hard. Okay, so I want you to convince, tell me what you're going to write, and then convince me to join NaNoWriMo.
You want to go first, Violet, or should I?
Sure, I'll go. John, you are a good writer. You are an eloquent man. You are intelligent and well-spoken. And you've tried NaNoWriMo before, so you know what it's like. And I have faith in you. I think you can do it. I also think that you don't have to make the decision on November 1st if you don't want to. If you decide on the 3rd or the 5th, it's still not too late to start. You just have to write a little bit more every day to catch up, and I think you can do it.
Okay. Liz, any additions?
Yes. John, I love your stories. I have loved your stories since my very first SCA event back in 1990, whatever it was. You are a consummate storyteller. You are eloquent. I have not been privileged to read much of your writing, but I'd really like to. And if you do NaNoWriMo, I might someday get a chance to read your writing, and I'd really like that.
Okay.
So that's my pitch.
That one, I'm turning all pink here, which is, since we don't have cameras on, a great thing. I'm going to say I will do it on one condition. And that is that I can get you both back. It doesn't have to be for a full half hour, for a recap of your NaNoWriMo experience at the end of the experience. We'll come back. We'll talk about what worked. We'll talk about, what changed, because the year has changed. This may be, I think, a banner year for NaNoWriMo. Now is a good time. Certainly the distractions of our social lives are much lessened.
Between the fact that, there's no traveling, there's no social life. And as I mentioned to you earlier, John, and Messenger, 2020 is just the best year I can possibly imagine to take a month and spend some time every day in a completely make-believe world, escaping reality.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people are worried about doing NaNoWriMo in November because of the politics. I'm doing it on purpose to escape it.
Bravo.
That is a really strong convincer. Final question, because we're getting to that. Could you repeat again what kind of novel you're intending on starting to write, knowing that the novel will do its own thing?
Well, it's going to end up being a romance.
But it's starting as a...
I'm going to try to do another romantic suspense, because my second novel, Sweet Temptations, was romantic suspense, and I really liked it. I liked the feel of it. And I love murder mysteries. I read them constantly, and I'd really like to write one. So I'm going to try that again.
Excellent.
Excellent. I love romantic suspense. I hope you are able to do. I hope that the muse takes you there.
Thank you. I hope so too.
And
how about you? What are you going to make?
I am going for a straight up murder mystery set in the world of the Silicon Valley.
Nice.
I'm only laughing because I love your take on the culture here. And you certainly have a wide range of experience of it. So, but you and I have different viewpoints on the culture of Silicon Valley. So, which makes it more fun, because you'll show me, I wouldn't say the seamy underside, but you'll definitely show me a different aspect of it, which would be a great learning experience.
Well, I think we all have different viewpoints on the worlds we live in, and that's what makes reading people's novels so much fun.
Yeah.
Okay. My goal will be to finish... Well, I've already done some research on it, but it's in a complete rewrite state again. I'm going to hammer out my cattle driving novel, which started as a joke and got way too serious, and we're going to take it back to lightly joking. And it will probably include a number of parenthetical stories that would be cut to make it meet young adult, but I'll push for 50,000 words that way.
May I make a suggestion?
Great.
May I make a suggestion, Don?
Please.
From a mindset perspective, you've used the phrase hammer out, and you've talked about cutting back. Maybe just let yourself do what you want to do this time. It's your first draft. It's the shitty first draft. Do whatever you want. You can always cut it or hammer it later.
Okay, so stop self-editing and just write?
That.
Yes.
Wow, that would be a great learning experience for me.
Do it. Do it.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
I'm going to say to anyone listening that you've heard a number of really good reasons to do NaNoWriMo, and if you want some help, you write us at writersdrinkingcoffee.com, and we will help you. Can I connect people to you guys, assuming that they're not asking you to write for them? Are you willing to? Okay,
Sure.
Excellent. So we will put links to everything we've mentioned, all the interesting things in our notes on the website, which is, of course, www.writersdrinkingcoffee.com. This will be posted on Facebook and Twitter. And I probably will note that I am affiliated in the NaNoWriMo site, and we will answer email. And everyone has been listening to Writers Drinking Coffee, a labor of love and enthusiasm put together by our hosts. Our main web support magic is brought to us by Deirdre McGaffey-Schwein, and our sound engineer and backup web spider is Dave Welsh. Our intro music is Pretty Maid Milking a Cow, and our exit music is Breakfast with a Morning Person, both by Michael Engberg. You can hear more from Michael Engberg on manyhatsmusic.com. Our podcast sponsor is Jackal Designs, enabling you all to buy cool WDC swag, including, soon, a shirt that truly captures this year with a firing ice sculpture on it. Ice sculptor, not a Zamboni. Again, I'm John Schmidt, and we've been listening to Liz Hamill and Violet Woods talk about NaNoWriMo. Thank you.